All right, let's talk about something huge, a challenge that pretty much everyone is facing right now, whether you're a startup founder or, an aerospace engineer. And that is, how do we take this absolute flood of data we're all swimming in and turn it into a real, actual competitive advantage? So yeah, let's get into it.
I love this quote. We're starting here because it cuts right to the heart of the problem today, right? In this age of big data, the real danger isn't what we don't know. No way. The real danger is being so sure about something that's just plain wrong. It's that false confidence we get from staring at spreadsheets full of numbers, thinking we've got it all figured out, when really, that data might be leading us straight off a cliff.
And that brings us to the big question we're going to tackle. With information flying at us from every direction, faster than ever before, how in the world do you find what's actually true? How do you separate the signal from all that noise and make the right call before it's too late? And let's be clear, the stakes here are super high, because the time we have to make these decisions, it's shrinking every single day.
Okay, so first up, let's really break down this challenge. It's what some people call the race against the shrinking decision window.
It's a weird paradox, isn't it? We have more raw data right at our fingertips than any other time in human history. I'm talking terabytes and terabytes of the stuff. And yet, just having all that data doesn't mean we have clarity. In fact, a lot of the time we're just left feeling like we're drowning in numbers, but totally starved for any real understanding of what to do.
Okay, take a look at this. This visualizes the problem perfectly. It's called the decision window. It kicks open the second something happens, right? And it slams shut once the outcome is locked in. And every single step in between, recognizing what happened, analyzing it, deciding what to do, and then actually doing it, all of that takes time. The big problem? That whole window is getting smaller and smaller. Think about it. 20 years ago, if your product had a flaw, you might have weeks to react. Today, a single bad video can create a global PR crisis in like a couple of hours. The pressure to move fast, but not mess up, is just immense.
So, how do we deal with that kind of pressure? Well, we can't just wing it. We need a framework, a structured way to climb out of that data swamp, to get the clarity we need to actually make a move. And that's exactly what we're going to call the knowledge ladder. All right, so at the very bottom, the foundation of this whole thing is data. Just think of data as raw, unorganized noise. It's a sensor reading, a sales number from last Tuesday, a click on a website. By itself, it means absolutely nothing. It's just a single, lonely fact without any context.
And yeah, these are some perfect examples. Sensor readings, website logs, sales figures. It can be anything from defect counts on an assembly line to how many people visited your homepage. But again, these are just numbers. They're just observations. They don't tell you why anything is happening, and they sure don't tell you what to do about it.
Okay, let's climb up to the next rung. We get from data to information when we add one crucial ingredient: context. See, information is just data that we've organized a bit. We've structured it so it answers basic questions, like who, what, when, where. So instead of just a number, you get something like, production defects went up 15% last quarter, specifically on line 3. See? Suddenly that raw number starts to have some meaning.
But this next step, this is the most important one. Climbing from information to knowledge. Knowledge is way more than just a list of facts. It's the ability to take that information and turn it into smart action. It's when you start to see the patterns, when you finally understand the why behind the numbers. It's not just knowing defects are up on line 3, it's knowing they're up because a specific sensor is failing and needs to be replaced. That's knowledge.
Okay, I know this can all sound a little abstract. Data, information, knowledge. So let's make it super concrete. We're going to look at a really high-stakes, real-world example from aerospace. This story shows you exactly why context, that little magic ingredient, is absolutely king. So check this out. It's like two different worlds. On one side, you've got the design engineers. Their whole job is to take an idea and turn it into a blueprint, using all these fancy computer simulations. To them, the actual physical building of the thing, that's just a constraint they have to work around. But then, on the other side, you have the manufacturing engineers. Their world begins after the design is finished. They get this fixed blueprint, and their job is to figure out how to build it efficiently. They're living in completely separate universes, using different tools, speaking different languages. And this creates this huge gap right down the middle. And the cost of that gap? It's huge. Get this. A study found that a whopping 90%, 90,
of engineers in these fields said that if they could just collaborate more, if they could just share their context with the other side, they could slash the number of recurring problems that drive projects over budget and past deadlines. I mean, wow, that just goes to show you how valuable shared knowledge really is.
Okay, so we've established the problem. The goal is to bridge these gaps, to climb that knowledge ladder faster. So the question is, how do we actually do that? Well, this is where we get into building what you might call a knowledge engine, basically a system that helps an entire organization learn.
And it turns out, at its core, pretty much any learning process follows this universal loop. It's called cycle. First, you sense what's going on. You collect the data. Next, you interpret it. You turn that data into actual knowledge. Then, based on that knowledge, you decide on a course of action, and then you act. But here's the kicker. The most important step is the last one. You learn from what happened. You take that outcome, and you feed it right back to the beginning of the loop. That is how you get smarter over time. It's a cycle.
Now this next visual is a really cool real-world example of that loop in action. In a super specialized field like aerospace, they take a simple idea like that signal loop and they formalize it into something they call the knowledge-based engineering lifecycle. Now, I know it looks complicated, but don't get bogged down in the details. It's just a very, very structured way of doing the exact same thing. Sense, interpret, decide, act, and learn. And the big takeaway here for all of us is that this process is universal. I mean, if they can build a system around it to build a jet engine, you can for sure build a system around it in your business. Of course, these systems don't just run on their own. To make it all work, you really need two kinds of people. First, you need your specialists. These are the folks with that deep, specific expertise. Think of them as the individual musicians in an orchestra, the violinists, the percussionists. But you also need someone else. You need what some call the COM. That's composer, orchestrator, and maestro all rolled into one. This is the person who sees the big picture, the conductor who makes sure all those amazing specialists are playing in harmony and working towards the same goal.
Okay, let's bring it all together. Let's talk about why mastering this whole process is the ultimate competitive edge.
So, if there's one thing you take away from this, let it be this. The goal here is not more data. It's not about having the biggest servers or the most complex spreadsheets. That's not how you win.
Nope, the real goal is faster learning. The ultimate competitive advantage goes to the team, the company, the organization that can run through that sense, interpret, decide, act, learn loop faster and better than everybody else. That is the real engine of success.
And that's really what this is all about. Look, true long-term success, it's not about one brilliant idea. It's not about a lucky break. It comes from building a system, a real knowledge engine that can reliably, repeatedly turn raw experience into knowledge you can act on. That, right there, is where all real innovation comes from.
So I'm going to leave you with one final question to chew on. Think about your own team, your own organization. Is it built just to collect data? Is it basically a giant digital warehouse where facts go to sit? Or is it built to learn? Is it a living, breathing thing that gets smarter every day? Because honestly, in the world we live in now, the answer to that question makes all the difference.